Okay, but I did read some books, but only because I had to get out of the house for a week. Because if not, it wouldn't have been that amazing, I must say. Hello, beautiful bookworms! My name is Katarina, and welcome to my channel. And today I'm going to be doing my June wrap up, which was quite an intriguing one, I would say. I've read some manga, I've read lots of horror, and some other pleasantries. So without further ado, because it's going to be a little biggie, I'm just going to get right into it. I also would like to say that for most of the books that I've read, I have reviews for them, and for those that I do have reviews, I am going to leave them link up above, so I'm not going to always be saying that. Some of them I will have reviews later, maybe, and some of them I have now. So that's it. That's the tea. So first I want to start with the Bleeding Ground Volume 4, which is called Enemies of the Crown. I mean, if you don't know what the Bleeding Ground is, it's a story that is being told by Mason from the channel Mason in the Dark. So he narrates its story, he uses sounds, he uses his voice, he uses like everything possible to make him one of the best narrators in the world, and it's a story that is actually constructing. I do believe that I've called it once a mix of fantasy, horror, mystery, and it's incredible. It's amazing. There is no way that I can describe to you how good it feels to hear this if you haven't read it. So I'm going to try and leave link either up above or down below the playlist that it has with the entirety of the volumes that is done for the Bleeding Ground series. I would highly recommend, if you're not squeamish with some hard topics like mutilations, loss of families, some gore, public executions, and others, you can read this. Well, listen to Mason read it, which is even better than you actually reading it, because I swear, he was born with the voice of an audiobook narrator. I mean, I wish I had a book narrated by him. One of mine, and maybe one of other people as well, but I digress. So without any doubt, this is a recommendation that I always do. Go check his channel. I'm going to leave it linked down below, and go check his story because it's an amazing one, and I have no idea where it's going, but I really want to know where it's going. So I'm always like, okay, is there going to be a new volume? Is there going to be a new volume? And every time that he announces that it's going to be a new volume out, I am incredibly excited. Then I reread volume 1 of Rosen Blood by Kachiru Ishizue, and I read volume 2, which I got recently. So this is a trashy sort of reverse harem vampire manga series. It's a shoujo, and it's basically about this maid. She wakes up in this house where there's 4 vampires living, and she kind of agrees to be their sustenance because she pities them for being so alone and for having to drink blood to survive. In this case, they actually eat crystals made of blood, which is a plot point that I was not expecting in the story, and I am really enjoying it. I mean, I know it's trashy, I know it's not great. Some of the lines are just so cheesy, but it's just so fucking amazing, and I'm really enjoying it, so I cannot wait. I've seen the cover of the next one, and it's a purple cover, nonetheless, so I'm really excited for that. I do have a review for these first 2 volumes, and then I will probably do a review when I finish the series, since it doesn't make much sense doing a review volume by volume for this one. I have also read a book that I don't have with me, and that is The Cat Who Saved Books. And this is by Sosuke Natsukawa, I believe. And this is basically a story of this young person, and he has just lost his grandfather. He lived with him in this kind of secondhand bookshop, and his grandfather was in love with books, and he like showed him the love of books, and this young man, he is devastated by grief, and he just one day meets a cat in the secondhand bookstore, and the cat spells him on a journey where he just has to save books from people that are harming them in some specific way, like leaving them on the shelves and never rereading them, or cutting bits and pieces of them and just showing just an abstract of them, and other unpleasantries, which if you love books, it's going to be hard to hear some of them. So the reason why I don't have this book is because my mother gifted to me for the World's Children's Day, I think. I think it's worldwide, or maybe not. Here in Portugal, it is. So it was like a joke because I'm still a child and yada yada. And I read it, I really enjoyed it. However, it was very childish for me. I do like middle grade literature, but I'm not in the place of mind where I can read all of the middle grade literature without criticizing the writing style and saying like, this is not for me, I'm not going to reread it. And I'm a person that if I'm not going to reread something, I'm not going to keep it, just because I feel like it's sad that the book stays. Stop doing that. Thank you. I feel like it's sad if the book stays on the shelf and is never reread again. Like, you don't touch the pages and it's just there collecting dust and slowly dying, not telling the story. So I like to give it to charity or sell it. But in this case, I could exchange it because the deadline of the purchase was not yet met. And because it was in pristine condition, I asked to change it for another book that I really wanted and I wanted to read. So yeah, it was actually very, very interesting, and I do believe that if you have a child that loves books, it will be beautiful. I actually shed a tear once in a while. However, the main message of the story is one that I am very in queue with because I already know it, and that's the way that I've lived by. It's a story of grief and a story of a coming of age and how to deal with bad things in your life, but also how to treat books and what books are ultimately about, and that is showing you how to have empathy for other people through characters and their adventures, and also share the reading experience, be better by the reading experience, and not just use it as a way of showing that you're very knowledgeable and very well read. And I already know all of those things, or at least I like to believe that I live by all of those things, and for that reason alone, it wasn't that mind-blowing that I wanted to keep it, but it's really cute, and I'm thinking that if one day I do have a child, we will see, I might try to get it for the child when the time comes. I don't know, but for now, it's not in my place anymore. Continuing with things that I have reviews for, I have read Price Manor, The House That Falls. So this is book 3 in the Price Manor series, and it's by J. Alexander, which is also the person that does the covers, and this one is beautiful, as all of them are. So I have a review for this, as I've stated. This is the third one in a series about this house that is a horror house, and basically it can move through time and space, and every single person that gets into there will never be able to leave, or that's the premise. And in this case, we are in 17th century England, in the climax of the English Civil War. And it was incredibly interesting. I would say it's not as gory as the other ones, even though it has some really scary parts and some really bad imagery, you know, related to the house. But it is a lot more metaphorical, and it focuses a lot more on details and on the characters, and not as much on the monsters in the house. However, there's a lot of development for what happens in the house and how the house works and everything going on. So I am very excited to see where this is going. I'm really excited to pick up the next one and to read the series. I wish it was already out, but it's not. And I have to say that J. Alexander's writing style just really captivated me. I really loved it. And so I obviously wholeheartedly tell you, if you want, buy the Price Manor series. You can read them in no order, so yeah. Then I've read Devil's Rejects, which is an anthology for second chances, and that is edited by Michael Goodwin. And I have made a review of this as well because I had an arc of the Devil's Rejects. At the time of filming this, I don't have my physical copy yet. but I'm waiting for it. But I did got an arc by my friend Miguel, and he has a short story published on this anthology, so I was really happy for him. I really like that short story, which I've read previously, so I'm a bit biased. And I enjoyed the short story collective anthology. There were some themes and some writing styles that weren't the best for me, but there were a lot of good stories in this one. So it's also one that is already out, and that if you want to help the Hindi horror community, I would very much tell you, please buy it and support Miguel and support the other authors, because it's really important nowadays that we support the new voices in horror, I believe. Then I have read Lady Mechanica, The Monster of the Ministry of Hell, issue 4, and finally we finished this arc, and it was an incredible ending. I really love Lady Mechanica. This is by Joe Benitez, and I don't remember the other person's name, but the cover will be here as per usual, so you will see it. I really love this arc. I love the Lady Mechanica comics. It's very steampunkish, it's very mystery, it's very grim, dark, and horror at some points. And this story was no different. When we finally figure out who exactly is the monster of the Ministry of Hell, it was a fucking plot twist. I really enjoyed it. I mean, we already kind of know, we were given clues, but we could never imagine that it would end up that way, and it was amazing. Then I have read Vicious Traditions, Tales of Terror, and The Grotesque by Azura Knox. And this was kindly sent to me by Nick Alley. It was an e-arc, and I have read it. I have no idea if at the time of filming this is already out, but I do believe so. I really enjoyed it. It's like fairy tales or twists in old stories, but for the grotesque and the horror. There were stories there that reminded me like of The Lost Boys, the movie, if you've seen that movie, vampires, you know. And there were other stories that reminded me of similar premises that I've heard, but were done with a twist in horror and grotesque, as the title conveys, and I really enjoy it. If it is the best short story collection in the world, there are one or two stories that are very, very weak compared with the general of it being good, so I cannot give it a total 5 stars, but I really enjoy them. I think they were fun, I think they were creepy at times, and I just want to feel my spine tingling and having some fun with the gruesome, so I think we achieved that. Then I have read another manga, and this is Orochi by Kazuo Umezu, Volume 1 in the Perfect Edition. This one only contains 2 stories. It's a biggie one, so the stories are big, and it's all centered around the main character Orochi and the humans that she gets in touch with by accident or other reasons. And her way of trying to help that almost always makes things worse. And the twists and turns, I have not really enjoyed the latest manga series that I've read by Kazuo Umezu, but this one is great, and I cannot wait for having volume 2 in my hands, because I really want to read more of Orochi. I do have a review, and I will leave it linked as per usual. Then I was sent an e-arc copy of a book that has been already published, and that I was so mesmerized of how much I loved it. And that is The Headsman by Christina Mirzoy. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced his name. But The Headsman, it was incredible. It's a really, really short tale, or rather, I should say, it's a really, really short anthology of stories that all have to do with this small like village, and the characters that enter in the stories are all interconnected. So in the beginning you don't understand very well what is going on. You start with the perspective of the headsman, the local headsman, and then you start to see how all of the characters intertwine and the bigger plan that was there all along. You will have to pay a lot of attention though, because Christina doesn't explain to you everything. I would say that the author wants you to discover it by yourself, which for me it's amazing when the authors don't treat readers as if they are stupid and they just confide in them to discover the meaning of the stories and the meaning of the characters and how everything is progressing. And I loved it. I love interconnecting the dots. I love understanding what characters were characters, and it had a very, very grim fairy tale like feeling. It was at times gruesome, it was at times unfair, and it was at times ugly, but in the beauty of what it is, a fairy tale. And I absolutely love this, and I think that I'm going to make a separate review for it, and that you really should read The Headsman. Really, I mean, if you're taking anything away from this wrap-up, is read The Headsman by Christina Mirzoy. It's something else. It's really short, but really powerful. I loved it. Then I have read, finally, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. And I have a lot of mixed feelings on this one. It's not that I didn't enjoy it, it's that the way of the storytelling that is told through mixed media and the way that it progressed, I was just seeing toxicity everywhere. And I know that that's the supposed tale of the story. This is a story about ultimately what we are searching for in relationships and how we can get so carried away that we lose ourselves in the progress. But it was just so, I was like, how can anyone in the world, and I know that this exists, but for me it was just fucking mind-blowing how someone could be so dependent on another person that will take themselves to the extremes that I saw in this short novel. It was just, I don't know. I am definitely going to read more by Eric LaRocca because I want to know how I feel with this author's next novels, and to see if I can finally understand if it is for me or not. But with this one, I have no idea. It was just so strange and eerie, and it just irked me. But that was the supposed intention of it. So at the same time, it was great because it provoked the emotion that it was supposed to. But it really wasn't. You know what I mean? It was so strange, and I praise Eric LaRocca for that, because this author is at the level of grossness and just making you feel uneasy that a lot of great authors that are recognized all around the world in horror are. So I compliment Eric LaRocca for this. I just don't know if it's for me. So I want to try again and see if it really is or if not. I think that maybe the mixed media didn't help a lot, because I was like, okay, but this is mixed media. And I don't believe that people would write emails or instant messaging like this. There would be stuff missing, there would be stuff that you just put here for the purpose of we knowing it, and it was just, I think that was a part that didn't work as well. I want to see Eric LaRocca's next books, see what they mean for me. But I am intrigued about the writing style and about the characters and about the plots. I am. And then finally, a book that I've just finished last night is I Hear the Clattering of the Keys and Other Fever Dreams by Jamie Stewart. Now, I have read already 2 Jamie Stewart books, with this 3, and I am not going to stop, at least not anytime soon. I have one of them there, which is the second in the Price Manor series that I really enjoyed, and I had a NARC copy of Montague's Carnival of Delights and Terrors, I think that's the whole name of it, which he asked me to read and to review before it came out, which I did. And now I've read his short story collection, which is I Hear the Clattering of the Keys and Other Fever Dreams. And my god, did I love this short story collection. It was incredible. Most of the stories, which normally isn't the case for me in short story collections, most of the stories struck a chord in me. Most of the stories made me feel a little bit creeped out, and most of the stories had amazing themes that I really wanted to see developed, and I was like, oh yes, I don't believe he's going to write about this. I really love it. So I was very excited to actually read it, and I was very happy that I was given the chance to, so I have to get the physical copy of that book because it was incredible. It was really good. I really like Jamie's prose. I think that he pays a lot of attention to character emotions, and he pays a lot of attention to social criticism, which for me it's incredible in a horror to see direct criticism to something. And I think that it's his writing style, and it's a perfect writing style for the stories that he creates. So if you want to start with him, I think that I Hear the Clattering of the Keys and Other Fever Dreams is the best way to go. It's such an incredible short story collection. Almost all of the stories are amazing. I think pretty much all of them are great, and you read it at such fast pace. I read it in like a day and a half, something like that. 2 days, let's say 2 days. And I couldn't be happier. So it's one of the short story collections that I really, really like. So if that's anything to go for, yeah. So yeah, guys, that's going to be all for this video. If you like it, leave a like or subscribe, and tell me down below if you've read any of these books, if you're planning on purchasing any of these books, or if you haven't read them but they sound intriguing. I mean, I just like to talk to you, so just give me some feedback, and that's going to go for today. So happy readings to you all. Bye!